Right, UFC 303, Las Vegas, International Fight Week, huge card. Bit of a mess around, but the UFC got it done. We'll run through the fights and where each of the fighters are going to go next. What's going to be some good matchups for them and where they're going to head after this card. Before we go much further, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Just starting out here, it makes a massive difference. So please go and do that. It's much appreciated. Now, the headline of this show is the monster of the UFC. Arguably, for me, the pound for pound best in the UFC because of the way he demolishes people and because of his activity levels. Absolutely incredible stuff. The way that he's come through this UFC, both divisions, the light heavyweight and the middleweight, is just a joke. Alex Pereira, Powhatan, the Sharma man. He is just something else. This late notice fight, he's out in Australia doing seminars, doing meet and greets, sparring with heavyweights. Saw a video of him sparring with Dempsey McLean, who's a heavyweight that went 11 and a half rounds with Filip Hrgovic last year. Mental stuff. It looked like he was absolutely piecing him up. To be able to go up and box a heavyweight and do the sort of stuff that he was doing in there is just a credit to the man's power and his ability in the ring. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. He's a freak of nature. We haven't seen anyone at this level for a fucking long time. Don't get me wrong, Islam is a very close second, pound for pound, but I think for my money, the way that Pereira just runs through people in early rounds, short notice, steps up in weight division, it doesn't matter to him. He is just a demolition man. I love seeing him fight. So he's up against Jiri Prochazka. Jiri, again, credit to him, taking this fight on late notice. Never an easy thing to do. He's out there in the woods fighting trees and being a samurai. Absolute phenomenal athlete. The first fight was a bloody good watch. Seriously good fun. But Pereira's power comes through again. Drops him at the end of the first round. You think it's over. Gets saved by the bell. Comes back for the second round. Head kick. Slaps around the head. Good night. Herb Dean could have called it then. Could have been a walk-off, but Alex Pereira gets on top, gives him a few more digs just for good measure, and Jiri doesn't know what day of the week it is, doesn't know his arsehole from his elbow. He is all over the place. Which is sad because I really like Jiri. I think he's a great asset to the UFC. He's a great asset to that division. Phenomenal athlete. And I want to see him back better. So let's talk about that. What does Jiri do? Where's he go? I mean, should we see him fight Ankalaev again? I don't really think we need to see that. I think Ankalaev gets a shot at the title. He deserves it. But Jiri, Jamal Hill, I mean, I'd watch it. I'd like to see it. I think that's a good fight for him. Get him back on his feet. I think he comes through that. He's got a much wider skill set, in my opinion. I think he comes through Jamal Hill, does a number on him, sits it back up again. And then we'll see what happens with Pereira, because this man wants to step up to heavyweight. 3 divisions. He wants to run through 3 divisions. He doesn't care. He does not care. He just wants to fight. He wants to be active. And he wants to be the man. Fair play to him. I could see it happening. Daddy Dana doesn't seem too keen on the idea. I love the idea. I say put him up there. He wants to fight there. We want to see him fight there. I fancy him against a Cyril. Yeah, I'd say a Cyril Gane. Give him Cyril Gane. I mean, similar sort of styles. Gane's obviously a lot bigger. The weight problem would maybe be the only argument to not let Pereira go up, but I reckon put him in there against Cyril Gane. Potentially Tom Aspinall if he gets through Curtis Blades, which he will. But yeah, man, I mean, the ideal fight is him against John Jones, innit? We would love to see it. Get the undisputed GOAT title if he beats Jones, or if Jones beats Pereira and then beats Stipe. I mean, it's just ridiculous that we're even talking about this. The fact that this man has come into the UFC just a few short years ago, run through it. Now, I know he got stopped by Izzy, but he was putting the pressure on and he looked like he was dominating that round and he got caught. But for him to have done what he's done is just something else. So impressive. I'd love to see him go up to heavyweight. I'd love to see him fight Garn. If not, fight Aspinall. We want to see it. Give it to us, Dana. Give it to us. And then from the undercard, we've got Dan Ige and Diego Lopes, which is a story in itself, absolutely insane. How this fight played out and how this fight happened is just wild. It's wild. Credit to both of them. Absolute warriors. It was originally supposed to be Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes. Brian comes in and says, look, I'm not going to make weight. Can we go to 155? Diego says, sure, of course we can. So they're weighing again. Upper weight class. Diego doesn't give a shit. Brian Ortega falls ill. He's been medically told that he can't fight. Fair enough. You know, he can't fight. You can't fight is what it is. Dan Ige getting a massage, gets a phone call, says, fancy doing us a favour, jump in and fight as a co-main event. Unbelievable stuff. Absolute warrior. I love Dan Ige. Massive hats off to Diego Lopes because he was preparing for a jiu-jitsu guy and now he's got to go in with a striker who's a puncher as well, can really hit. Like, he's a serious striker, Dan Ige. And I tell you what, he nearly got the better of me. If that was a 5-round fight and they both sort of going the way that they were going, Dan Ige was looking like he could do some serious damage there. It looked like he could do some serious damage. But Lopes comes away with a win. He deserved it. Hats off to him. Credit to him. What a performance. What a character to just say, fuck it, yeah, upper weight class, don't mind. New opponent, don't mind. Go upper weight class again, don't mind. It's just unreal. Unreal stuff from him. So what's next for Diego Lopes? I mean, I'd be tempted to say give him the loser of the Arnold Allen Gigadze fight. I think that would be a good matchup for him. I'd probably say I reckon I fancy Allen to get through that as a winner and then move up. Hopefully we'll see him against Yair Rodriguez. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, Lopes versus Chikadze, I think that's a good fight. I think that's a really good fight. If you could argue to put him in there with an Aljamain Sterling, put him in there with Sterling, let him have a go at it. If he's anywhere near as talented as he is willing, then he's going to go right to the top of this division. Looked like he needs to do a little bit more on his striking, maybe his counter punching a little bit. Got caught a few times in that regard. But obviously he's been training for a jiu-jitsu guy. You know, he's been training for a grappler. He's been doing all his work on the ground. Very little striking, I imagine. So, look, I fancy him to go up. Give him the loser of the Arnold Allen Giga Chikadze fight. If not, an Aljamain Sterling. See how he goes. But Dan Ige, I mean, he's been a gatekeeper on this division for years, hasn't he? Like, he's just an absolute warrior. Put him in there again. I'd like to see him against Barboza again. That's a good fight, I think. I fancy it for him. He said he wants to fight at the Sphere, so I don't know what he's going to do there. But, yeah, get him in that ring again. Get him fighting because I love the bloke. And he's an absolute warrior, and they are both a promoter's dream. Fair play to them both. Love to see that. Next up, we had probably one of the worst Anthony Smith performances we've seen for a long time, I think. It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't. Roman Dolidze. I mean, Dolidze's moved up a weight class. He looks good. Doing a number there on Anthony Smith, and he did do a number on him. It was, again, quite a late notice fight. Like I said, he steps up in weight class to fight Smith, and he just looked so much better. Better pace. It looked like the weight might be a little bit of a problem for him. He did look a little bit small to be in that light heavyweight division. Still fancy him at middleweight. He's top 10 there. I would say that you. I'd like to see him go for it. Maybe give him a Paulo Costa. Put him against Costa if he wants to come up again. He said that if he doesn't go up again, that he'd like to fight Hamzat. I'd watch that fight 100%. I love watching Hamzat fight. So if he wants to do that, let him do that. But for Anthony Smith, it looks a bit tough, doesn't it? I know he took this fight late notice, and I know it was a big grappling game for him. He got a little bit messy with the hands, ended up on the ground a few times, didn't quite have the pace to be dealing with it. His striking did look a little bit off, didn't it? He's got to be banging on the door in here of retirement, surely. I mean, he's been a gatekeeper in that fight, in that division for so long that since his title shot against John Jones in 2019, he's just not really looked up there anymore. And to be honest, in that top 15, I don't think that he beats any of them. I don't think he beats any of them. I'd argue that he's banging on the door of retirement. I don't know, maybe give him the Carlos Ulberg fight and see how he goes, but I'm not too sure. I'm really not. But yeah, I've loved seeing him fight. He's a great character, always willing, but he's getting towards the end, I think, isn't he? Next up was the women's bantamweight. We had probably one of the most savage cuts you've ever seen in UFC. Huge elbow to the forehead, just opens her up like a tin of beans, and it was like a talking mouth on the top of her head. It was opening and closing, pulsating with blood. Refs had a look at it, calls the doctor in. Doctor says that it's down to the bone. Absolute savage. Myra Silva, she still wanted to fight, jumps over the cage. She's fuming, pouring blood everywhere. Dana's trying to keep her at distance, saying, "Don't come near me with that thing on your head." Yeah, I mean, look, good win for Macy Chiasson. Not too much to write about in this fight. Silva looked like she carried quite a lot of power, to be fair. Looked like she could have caused Macy some problems, but, a cut's a cut. And then when it's that bad, you don't get to keep fighting. You don't get to. It was absolutely savage. Maybe give Chiasson, maybe give her a Misha Tate or a Holly Holm. I think they're in and around her in that division. Legends, legends of the game. That'd be a real test for her. If she wants to have serious ambitions of going up through the classes, then yeah, I reckon if she fights one of them, that'll be a good test for her. For still, I don't know, maybe give it a rematch with Macy, maybe. If she wants it, you got to get that cut healed up. That'll take a while. But yeah, maybe give her that because she did show a lot of promise in that fight, to be fair. I mean, she was probably getting controlled a little bit, but she showed some power and she showed some shots and willingness to fight. Looked like it could have been a good fight if it didn't get stopped so early. So, I don't know, maybe give it a rematch. She fancies it. See how she recovers from that. She'll have a sore head for a few days, I'm sure. And then this next one, for me, was a massive letdown. We had Ian Garry versus Michael Venom Page, which I thought was going to be one of the fights of the night. And it was more like Izzy when he fought Silva. It was very sort of testing each other out, trying to show off some skills, but no real excitement, really. After the chat that Ian Garry gave it, where he said that he was going to be faster, he was going to be the aggressor, and he was going to dominate him and then potentially knock him out. Didn't see anywhere near that. Michael Venom Page was the faster one. He was looking like the more confident one in there as well. Garry manages to get a bit of control in that first round, sinks in a nice rear naked, to be fair, and it looked like it was going to be the end, but MVP doesn't give up. And he showed a lot of willingness. He showed a lot of willingness there to get out of that. Ian Garry tries a heel hook and looked like he was going to transition to a knee bar. You don't get them. In top level UFC fights, people don't tap to them. We've seen it. The likes of Tony Ferguson, Francis Ngannou, TJ Dillashaw. They've all fought on with busted knees. These people are savages. They don't care. If they're not knocked out or choked unconscious, They just keep fighting, unless you're Conor McGregor and he gets a broken toe and then doesn't want to fight. For those two, Ian Gary wants Colby Covington. Give it to him. Let him have it. That'll be a huge fight because the build-up will be monumental. Those blokes absolutely hate each other, and I'd hate Colby too if he said all that shit about my wife. So yeah, let him go at it. I'd see him fight. I actually think that Ian Gary gets the better of him if he keeps working like he has been with Damian Maia and Charles Oliveira. His jiu-jitsu and his grappling is obviously getting quite good. So let him have Colby. Let him go in there and try and piece each other up. I reckon that'll be a lot of fun. MVP, tough one. That I really like watching him fight. I really like seeing him in there. That unorthodox style, that kind of like point scoring karate style, where he just leans over himself to land a shot. I really like watching him fight. He's exciting. He's a showman. Brings a lot of character. I want to see him in there again. Maybe put him in there against the age-old gatekeeper of that division, Neil Magny. See how he does against that. I reckon he gets the win on that one. I reckon he was unlucky to lose that against Ian Gary. Probably could have been a draw. So, put him up against one of those top 10 guys again. Maybe a Vincent Luque. I think he's just outside the top 10, but that'd be a good fight. But I want to see him in there again. I like him a lot. I think he's good fun. In the prelims, Peyton Talbot, mate. He looks the business. Young guy, full of confidence, just gone to 9-0. Left, right, good night. Stopped him within 20 seconds, I think it was. Unbelievable performance. He is one to watch out for. He could really be a star in the UFC, and I hope so too. Hopefully he can land his backflip celebration next time too. The other one of note in this prelim card was Cub Swanson versus Andre Fili. Legends of the game. Again, absolute warriors, both of them. Cub's 40 years old, mental. He looks so fit. He looks so strong. He looked really good, pushing the pace the whole time. I thought he was very unlucky to lose that. I think it was a split decision. I thought it was tough, or a majority decision. Tough one, that. Tough one. I mean, you can't really argue with it, but I don't know what he's going to do from here. He's got to retire, isn't he? You'd have thought there's no way that he's jumping up the division now. Probably come to save yourself. They got fight of the night bonus there. You've got to look after yourself when you get to that point. You're just going to go in there and don't just go in there to get beat up. He still looks good. Andre Fili's a good fighter, but he's only ever going to be on prelim cards now, really. So I think it's time to hang the gloves up. He'll hate me saying that. He won't know I've said that. I don't know why I just said that. Andre Fili, Dana said it was his last fight as well. Still reasonably young. Still got a couple of years in him. He's 34. I don't know. He's always been kind of there or thereabouts, but not really there or thereabouts, is he? I don't see him. Maybe he'll get like a one-off contract in the UFC or something like that. It'd be interesting to see, but I don't know. Dana said he is out of the UFC, so who knows what he'll do next. Hopefully we see him again because he is good fun and he has been around for a really, really long time. But yeah, that's it. UFC 303. It was a good one. Alex Pereira, the 9th double champ, could potentially go to the triple champ, which is wild. Don't know if I see him beating John Jones, but it would be unreal to watch anyway. Like I said, there's been 9 double champs. Alex Pereira's 1. John Jones is another. Can you name the rest of them? Because there's a couple in there that, depending on how long you've been a fan of the UFC, might catch you out. So yeah, if you do know them, drop them in the comments. Let me know. Like I said before, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It makes a huge difference. Do us a solid. And I'll see you on the next one.